Have you ever wondered exactly what can my buyer's agent do for me? Well, today is all about negotiations. You are not going to want to miss today, part 3 of my What is a Buyer's Agent series. Stay tuned. Are you a move-up buyer who's ready to move on to the next chapter of your life? Maybe you are in that apartment and it's time to move up out of there, or maybe your current home is too small and cramping your style or too far from work or where you really want to be. If so, you are definitely going to want to subscribe and be sure to click that bell to be notified of all new videos that will tell you about current real estate trends, market knowledge, contract information, and especially how not to leave money on the table. Today we are going to dive into part 3 of my What is a Buyer's Agent series, all about negotiation. What can my buyer's agent do for me and how does that work with negotiation? So let's find out. Let's start off and back up for 1 second and find out, why do you need a buyer's agent? Why is there even such a thing as a buyer's agent? Why does that exist? Let's talk about that for a second, because in the state of Wisconsin, every single real estate agent has to be working in the best interest of either the seller or the buyer. Every single real estate agent all the time, no matter what. And so if the real estate agent doesn't have a contract signed with the seller or with the buyer, then how do they know who they're working for? Good question. And so the state of Wisconsin has made it a default that if the real estate agent does not have a contract signed with the buyer or the seller, then by default, every single real estate agent in the state of Wisconsin without a contract is by default working in the best interest of the seller. And so you, if you are on the buy side, definitely want to be aware of that and how you can find an agent that would be working and advocating for you and your best interests and not for the seller and the seller's best interest. And so hence we have something called buyer agency. All real estate agents, even if I am working in the best interest of the seller, I can still help you as the buyer buy this house, but I am working for the seller. The seller is my client and I owe fiduciary duties to my seller. And so if you aren't okay with that situation and you want an agent to advocate for you and to work for you and your best interest, then you would want your own buyer's agent. Let's just talk about what duties all real estate agents owe to all parties all the time, no matter what. No matter who you're working in the best interest of, to all parties we do owe a certain amount of duties, like fair and honest treatment. All agents always have to treat all parties fairly and honestly. That's kind of just part of being a human, I would say, and the duties you owe to any fellow human. But they do spell it out just in case there's somebody out there that maybe was confused on that part. Disclosure of material adverse facts. And so things that are, material in an adverse manner, like a leaky roof, like that is something that an agent would have to disclose, or high radon, or, maybe there's a pending foreclosure happening where the buyer might not literally be able to buy the house because the current situation of the seller is that they can't make their mortgage payments. So anything that is a material adverse fact would have to be disclosed by all agents to all parties, no matter what. Confidentiality, that is just something that agents owe to all parties. There is just reasonable things that you would assume people want to be held confidential. And so if you are working with an agent and you don't have a contract, they still owe you a degree of confidentiality. And no matter if they end up working for you in your best interest, or if they're working for the other side, if you're the buyer or seller, the other party to the transaction and the other party's best interest, that agent can still provide brokerage services to you. And there is a form that you would have to fill out regardless. And on there is a spot that you can list confidential things that you want to be kept confidential. So you can either list them out or things that maybe you don't want to be kept confidential. And so you can list those out as well. But automatically, confidentiality is a duty that is owed. Accurate market condition information, if that is requested, that is also something that all agents would have to disclose, is just accurate market condition information. If a buyer wants information on the market, that is something that you would have to provide to that buyer. Reasonable skill and care, again, that kind of goes without saying. You have to have a working knowledge of how to do your job and provide reasonable skill and care in all the duties that you would provide to that party of the transaction. An objective presentation of offers, which basically means that, if I'm working in the best interest of the seller and the buyer has chosen to have me help them purchase the home. The seller is my client, but I can still help the buyer and do all of these duties that I owe to all parties in order to help the buyer buy. And so, like in the example of offers, how do I present those offers? Well, they have to be presented in an unbiased manner and clearly, verbalize the benefits or the disadvantages to all the terms that would come up. And so let's dive into what is a buyer's agent and what can I do for you as a buyer's agent. And so we have entered into an agreement. You've said, Kelly, yes, I want you to be my buyer's agent. I want you to work in my best interest. I don't want you working for the seller. What can I do for you? So this is kind of where it gets more fun. And so before I jump into kind of a bulleted list of exactly what I get to do, I'm just going to kind of give an overview of something that's called fiduciary duties. And so I owe you fiduciary duties. And what is fiduciary? That's kind of a big word. And what does that mean? And so kind of to break that down in 3 parts here, number 1 would be part of that fiduciary duty would be loyalty. I will loyally represent you, avoid all conflicts of interest with you, and put your best interests ahead of the best interests of others. Disclosure of material facts to the transaction. And so this is not material adverse facts. That's what we talked about earlier, but material facts. And so material facts is something that basically somebody would want to know if you're buying a house, it's something that you would want to know in order to decide basically a course of action. And so let's say there were other offers on the table and I was aware of this. The other agent on the other end representing the seller informed me that there were 3 other offers on the table. Well, as your buyer's agent, of course I'm telling you this. If I'm not your buyer's agent, I may or may not tell you that. It depends if I thought it was advantageous for my seller. But if I'm working for you in the best interest of the buyer, then I am telling you everything I can to give us a leg up and to give you the most information so that you can make the best informed decision moving forward. And if we know that there are other offers on the table, you might choose to offer something different than you would have offered if we thought we were the only ones. And so things like that, or maybe the reason the seller is selling, if I'm able to find that out, that is important for you because maybe I found out that, they had to take a job in a different state and they already bought a house down there and they're making double mortgage payments. That's really good information for us to know because maybe the seller's in a tight spot and maybe we think we can maybe offer a little bit under what they're asking because we know that they're right now not comfortable in their situation. And so anything that's material to the transaction, I get to tell you as well. And then the last part of that fiduciary duty would be obedience. Just obedience in carrying out all the duties that are set forth in the actual buyer agency agreement and any lawful orders that you would dictate to me, which are pretty clearly spelled out in that form. Of course, I can't break the law. Anything unlawful would not be something I can do. But any lawful orders and any duties spelled out in that buyer agency agreement. Let's kind of layman's terms, what does this really mean? So layman's terms, break it down to me. So only a buyer's agent can do these following steps, which is just the most fun part about working for your client and being their advocate and helping them in their home purchase journey. So let's break these down. Give a negative opinion or critique of a seller's property beyond just disclosing those defects. And so yes, everyone has to disclose defects to you. That seller is supposed to fill out that real estate condition report and they are supposed to disclose defects. Is the roof leaking? Is the furnace rusted out? Whatever it might be. Is the basement, does the basement leak in heavy rains? Things like that, could be considered defective and things that they would have to tell you. But there are other things that you might want to know that aren't defects that would still maybe really greatly change your mind about buying the house. Things like resale issues. And one day you might have to sell this property, right? And so maybe you want to know if I think that this is going to be a difficult property to resell in the future. That might change your mind, right? That's not a defect. That's not anything anybody has to tell you. Resale issues are important. And so, a couple examples would be like, does it back up to train tracks? And do you have a high-speed train going through your backyard 3 times a day? That's something that might change your opinion of the house. Maybe you love the house, but that sounds awful. Or it might be something that I would tell you that other buyers might not like when you go to resell the house in the future. Other things, is it on a busy street? Some people with pets or maybe kids, maybe when you would go to resell it, are going to say, I really like the house, but I don't really want to buy it because it's on a busy street and that makes me nervous. Anything that I can think of when I'm in the house that might come back to bite you when you would go to sell, that's my job, and so I get to be your negative Nancy. Recommend or suggest an offering price about whether a house is priced too high or too low. This is a huge part of my job, right? You want to know, is the value there? Am I buying a house that's worth it? Am I buying a house that's not worth it? That's a big part of why you've hired me to help you find a house, right? And so I'm here, I will do my research, and I am here to give you my opinion of the value. It is, sometimes you get into competition and maybe that house is your forever home. Sometimes people buy a home and they plan on being there for a short period of time. And sometimes people buy a home and they plan on being there for the long haul, if that works out for them. And so I will give you my opinion of the value, and I'll also tell you if I think that will get you the house. So like, let's say you're in a competitive competition with that house. Maybe I feel the value's here, but there's 4 offers on the house right now, and I'm going to tell you that there's no way that price is going to get you the house. It's up to you what ultimately you want to do. So if I feel the value is here, but I think if you want to get the house, you might have to offer here, I'll just be honest with you and then let you make that decision. It's totally up to you what you ultimately want to do, but I'm here to at least give you my opinion of the value, let you know if I think we would maybe possibly run into any appraisal issues on this home. And the appraisal, if again, watch part 1 and part 2, I think I talk about the appraisal in one of those videos as far as, finding out that third-party value on the opinion of the value and how that affects your loan and whatnot. And so make sure you watch those. But if I think we might run into any issues with that appraisal, that's my job, is to let you know that ahead of time so that you know what potential hurdles we might encounter and what that looks like for you and what that means to you down the road. Structure the offer and draft the offer with the buyer's best interest in mind. That's a big part of the job. And so just, depending again on the situation, are we looking at a house that other buyers aren't interested in? Maybe it's a slower time of year and there isn't a lot of activity around this particular house, but it's a great house. Maybe we get to write that offer mainly in your best interest. We can do other things than just price to either strengthen the offer or weaken the offer. There is various things that you can do. And so when I'm structuring that offer, just letting you know kind of, okay, well, this will strengthen it, or this is really more in your best interest and the seller won't love this, but maybe we think we can get away with it because we just don't have a lot of competition at that time. And so just advising you for the best scenario and outcome for you. If you are in a competitive situation, writing an offer that has all the terms drafted in your best interest might not bode well for you. Ultimately, it's your decision, but I'm at least here just to advise you and tell you what that means. Recommend and assist the buyer with negotiation strategies for best price and terms. That kind of piggybacks on the other one we were just talking about. There is other things you can do other than just price that will either weaken or strengthen the offer. And there's things like, that scenario I gave earlier with the sellers that moved out of state and they're making double mortgage payments. A quick closing is really valuable to them. They want to be done, most likely. They don't want to make any more payments than they have to. And so a quicker closing is value to them. It's not necessarily equates to a purchase price change. It's just giving them a more comfortable time frame. And so there's other things that we can do, how we draft the inspection and who has the right to call the deal dead, the home inspection contingency, all those things, how many contingencies you're adding to the offer. All those things will either weight it down or lighten it up. And so again, just advising you for the situation that we're in and letting you decide what ultimately how you want the offer to be completed. Disclose all information about a property's history and just anything else that I can find out so that you can make an informed decision. Sometimes it's really nice to know maybe what they bought it for, if I can find that out, or sometimes it's really nice, maybe they have only been in the home for 2 years. And so when they fill out that real estate condition report, the seller, they don't have a lot of information on there because they've been there for such a short period of time. Well, maybe I can go back and find an old condition report and the prior seller was there for 10 years. years, let's say. That's a nice report to have if I'm able to find that, and that I can share that with you, just so we can have a good history of the property and understand the issues that it's had. Since you're going to be buying it, you want to understand everything that's been going on. And so, what did they pay for it? Did they try to sell it last year for $20,000 more and it didn't sell and it sat on the market for 6 months? That's really good information to know, to kind of understand what the seller's journey has been, so that we can make good decisions moving forward when we're trying to draft an offer. And then any other advice within my real estate license that, again, is not unlawful. If you would like my complete guide, my complete buyer's guide on how to buy a home and win, please click the link below and download my free guide. That'll give you so much information on what you need to know, the process, negotiation, how a buyer's agent can help you. So be sure to download that today and make sure you check that out so that you can be an informed buyer when starting your home process journey. I'm Kelly Doyle with Kelly Doyle Homes and Realty Executives, and I'll check you next time.